Hi, Reg.
Theodore, my Danette, how is everyone doing today?
Doing great. We were looking at your numbers here since the topic of conversation is stars sitting out in the NBA. You started 80 or more games 10 times in your career. You averaged almost 40 minutes per game at the age of 35. That would be the most in the NBA this year by 2 minutes. You wanted to play, but it was a different generation. When did it change where, pacing yourself, and maybe Greg Popovich is the one who sort of invented this, but when did it happen?
I think it probably started probably to the early 2000s. I think Popovich and probably other coaches, along with analytics, started to look at the data, and I think that's when resting players, looking at schedules as a whole, and finding out when they can rest their stars. When Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker were resting, because people just thought it was the Spurs and they were boring, even though they were winning championships, it never really became highlighted. But it seems like when LeBron James do it, everyone's up in arms. And, to LeBron's point, Pop has been doing this, for a while now. But when he does it, people want to call to arms. I understand where he's coming from and his point. But what LeBron needs to understand is you have 41 home games. That fan base sees you 41 times. When you go on the road and sit, and I know that's not the job of LeBron to fill the arena in your building, but he's got to take into account, the NBA fan base, because the NBA has always been marketed by its superstars. And LeBron has been the face of the league, 10 plus years now. But if there's any player, and I know I'm going on both sides here, if there's any player that deserves to sit out, that has earned the right to sit out, it would be LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
6 straight NBA finals. But on the flip side, 41 home games, if you're going to sit out, try and sit out at home.
That's my point. If you want to take a game off that cost your team and cost your ownership and your fan base. If you really need a day off, then do that, because you didn't need to take the game off against the Clippers. It wasn't a grueling road trip where you had to take. You had a day off before. You were staying in town for the Lakers game, and I understand that LeBron feels like this is the LeBron rule here, but there's only 5 guys, Reg, that really factor in here. I'm going to guess, and that's LeBron, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. Would you say that's fair? That if you're going to say, a consensus of you're going to show up and you want to see these stars play, would it be those 5?
Easy, no question. And again, LeBron James being the face of the league, a 4-time MVP, it's safe to say almost 2, Cleveland as well as LeBron is probably the number 1 draw in the NBA. I know you've got, the greatest show on the floor in the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry and KD. But LeBron James, 6 straight NBA finals. Now, Daniel, that's taxing on the body. I can understand where LeBron is coming from. But you just highlighted, if you have a day off before and you're staying in L.A. to play the Lakers after the Clippers, it's a little head-scratching, and it's almost penalizing that Clipper fan base that when the schedule came out and they knew that the Cavs were going to be in Staples Center playing, a contending team like the Clippers. If you want to sit out against the Lakers then.
Yeah.
Sit out against the Lakers.
You could beat the Lakers if you sat out.
Your team would probably beat the Lakers without you. Yes, but it'd be a much tougher game for the Cavs to win versus the Clippers without you, which we saw it wasn't.
But would you be different if you played now, Reggie? Just to be fair to today's stars, that if you had players who were sitting out a couple of games here or there, would you be doing that?
And the way I was raised in a military household where you got to earn your keep, you listed the numbers, which I had no idea. I felt guilty when I didn't play. Even when I had a sprained ankle and I was able to play at 70, 75%, and I knew I could go, I would feel guilty sitting out because I knew I probably could still shoot. Would I be able to move laterally on that ankle? Probably not. But I knew if the ball came to me and I was wide open, I still could be able to shoot, and that would help my team. So I felt guilty by not being on the floor. I felt guilty by leaving Dale and Antonio and Rick Smits out there. So I always wanted to play. I just felt if you were healthy enough, if you could run up and down, if you could contribute to your team, you played. But on the flip side, Dan, I get it. It is we've made this league so soft nowadays, and I get it, but it just wasn't in my DNA to sit out. I'm sorry. It's hard for me to do that.
He's Reggie Miller. Reggie's doing double duty, covering the NBA, but also NCAA hoops for Turner Sports. He's in Kansas City tomorrow night. Michigan and Oregon, Purdue, and Kansas. Did you see the story of Ray Allen, who was on the 2008 championship team in Boston? They were going to have a reunion, and Ray is not invited back by the Boston Celtics for the reunion?
I did not see that story, but that's ridiculous if that is true. Again.
So there's bad blood when he left Boston to go to I'm guessing that there's still bad blood left there with Rondo and KG and Paul Pierce that they're not even inviting him back in the offseason?
Well, that's not right because that's not them inviting them back. That's management. So something's going wrong above Rondo and
No, I
Paul
think this
Pierce
is just the
KG.
guys. I think the team is getting together and having a reunion, but they didn't invite him.
But if that is true, that's ridiculous because Ray Allen helped win a lot of ball games and a championship along with Rondo and Paul Pierce and KG. You know, there was a reason why originally they were the big three and soon grew into the big four because of Rondo's play. And for them to hold a grudge because he decided to join LeBron James and Dwayne Wade in South Beach, and by the way, win another championship,
Yep.
To me that almost kind of adds to why he should be invited, how great a player he was and first ballot Hall of Famer. So guys need to stop being petty. What I'm thinking here, this is what I'm thinking, because let's face it, between Boston and Cleveland and Boston, Miami, and LeBron James, there's a lot of history there, especially between Paul Pierce and LeBron James. And there was a lot of things during those series when Ray Allen played for Boston that was said in the locker room. Things like, you can never go there and play. I can never play for LeBron James. There's things that's always said that you never think are going to get out. So when one of your players defects or signs with that team that you were talking so bad about in the locker room, which Ray Allen did, I think those guys felt betrayed. But at the end of the day, those guys need to understand that Ray Allen was a huge part to their success of winning the only championship in their career. So they kind of need to let it go.
I saw where LeBron James not pleased with LaVar Ball talking about LeBron's kids, who I think are 12 and 9, and saying that they can't possibly be great or as great as their dad because their dad was so great, that if you look at some of the stars, they're stars because their dads weren't stars. And LeBron said, keep your mouth shut, don't mention my kids. What do you make of LeBron? Is he being too sensitive here with LaVar Ball pointing out, and he points out some, real examples like, Kobe's dad or Steph Curry's dad, that they've surpassed them. Shaq, but then he also points out that Shaq's kids didn't amount to his dad, that Michael Jordan's kids didn't amount to anywhere near his dad, and that he thinks that this is going to happen with LeBron's kids.
Well, why don't you just go to baseball and talk about the Griffeys and the Bonds, too? Look, this is 3 weeks in a row that every time I've come on here, it's always been a LaVar Ball conversation. And I get that you always want to speak positive about your kids and you want to hold your kids on a pedestal, and rightfully so. I think every parent has the right to do and say that. And, it's interesting because I listened to the comments from Lonzo and LaMelo and all the kids, LiAngelo, and they talk about, well, that's just, dad being dad, and we take it with a grain of salt. He's always said, things like that. So, we really, as a family, don't pay him any mind. But the rest of the basketball community and people do. And to me, I just think he's doing his kids a disservice. I get that, you want to instill confidence, with your kids, but when you start bringing in Steph Curry and, LeBron James and, you make these off-the-wall comments, again, that bullseye just seems to get bigger and bigger. And these kids are going to be playing at the next level where there's going to be Steph waiting on them, LeBron waiting on them. So yeah, it's unfortunate. At times you just want him just to shut the hell up. Really, just shut up and let these kids play, man. Because I'm telling you, that bullseye is gonna. I would take it personal if I was in the league. I would take it personal. I really would. It has nothing to do. Lonzo is a fantastic player. Will probably be the number 1 or number 2 pick in this coming draft. But man, each and every night he laces them up. And it's not even like Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and the elite point guards. There's going to be the mid-range point guards that are going to go after Lonzo Ball because of what Papa said. Papa don't preach. Papa, stop preaching.
I'm in trouble deep. You got Michigan, Oregon, Purdue, Kansas. The best player with those 4 teams in Kansas City is who?
I say the best talent is probably the freshman Josh Jackson for Kansas. Mm-hmm. If I had to put money in Vegas, who I think the best player is, I'm going to go with Purdue's big man, Caleb Swanigan. This guy,
he's a beast.
Hey, he takes up a lot of space down low. He's a walking double-double, almost 19 points and 13 rebounds. But he has that kind of silky smooth touch where he can take you out to 3. The best player, in my opinion, who is probably going to, garner all the attention when he touches the basketball and when the basketball's thrown to him, is Caleb from Purdue.
I'm looking at the 87 draft. Jerry Krause passed away, the Bulls GM, and there was the trade with Olden and Polynice and Scottie Pippen the night of the draft. And you were 11th. You were taken 11th in that draft, right?
Scottie was taken, I believe, was it 7th in that trade?
He was 5th. They went up and traded. Polynice was 8th, and then they traded for one another. Horace Grant went before you.
Here's the thing. What's funny in that draft, because at the time, in Chicago now, that's where they have the pre-draft workouts. And
Moody Bible?
Yes, at Moody Bible.
Yeah.
Well, in 87, we had this. It was in Maui, Hawaii. We had a big tournament. That's where all the draftees went, and you played pickup games, and all the scouts were there, and the teams, and all that. And, Scottie really came out of nowhere, from a small school, Central Arkansas, I believe, or Little Rock, Arkansas.
Central.
And no one had really heard of him, but he played fantastic in Maui. And I remember, talking to him. He's like, oh, man, I just hope to get drafted, and no one really knows who I am, and, I'm just going to come out here and play hard. And the next thing we know, we hear Scottie Pippen. Everyone's like, Scottie Pippen. And then the, draft day, the trade for Scottie Pippen. I'm like, who is this kid now? Everyone knows later, obviously, who Scottie Pippen is, but give Jerry Krause a lot of credit, understanding that Superman was going to have to need a Batman, a Robin, someone who was going to be able to help MJ out, not only at the offensive end, but be that defensive guy, and Scottie was that guy. Scottie was Robin. He was Robin.
I covered that draft. So did we cross paths?
Did you have me going 11? Did you have me going that high? Be honest.
I had you going higher.
You did?
Yeah, but I meant higher like in number, like 18, 19 or. Could you imagine what would your career have been like if the Bulls had taken you instead of Scottie Pippen?
I don't know. I don't know, nor do I care. 'Cause I was happy. I was happy at 11 with Indiana.
You and Jordan couldn't have coexisted, is what you're saying.
Well, that was before the bad blood between MJ and I. I'm sure I would have learned to. I'm glad I never got the chance. Look, it was fun playing against him. Now that I sit back, would it have been nice to have some jewelry on my fingers playing with him? Oh, hell yeah. But during the middle of it, while you're competing against them, it was the best. I'll never take that away. I loved going against them as opposed to playing with them.
Reg will be on the call. Doubleheader. It's Michigan and Oregon. It's Purdue and Kansas. Coverage starts tomorrow night in Kansas City. Been fun listening to you, Reg. Have fun coming up tomorrow night.
Theodore, you're always the best. Danettes, you guys are always spot on.
That's Reggie Aloysius Miller.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.